I'm Steph Garcia Cichosz with Athletic Director U, and I am so excited to be here on the ground in Kansas City at the annual Women Leaders Convention, the first one back live in person since 2019. I am joined by this panel of absolute rock stars, trailblazers, icons in college athletics. We have Julie Soriero, former Director of Athletics at MIT, Debbie Corum, former Director of Athletics at Southern Utah, and Sandy Barbour, former Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics at Penn State. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us and for being here at Women Leaders.
It's been awesome.
It's been a great...
it's what Women Leaders is all about, and that's the energy and the sisterhood and promoting each other, and it's been a great few days. And it's been great to connect with all our friends.
Exactly. All our friends.
True.
Well, let's start with this. Julie, do you have any advice for Sandy and Debbie as they enter retirement?
I'm the old dog in this this panel right now. Feels funny. Feels awful, actually. I've talked to them both already. I think they're handling it well, as a matter of fact. It's interesting to. My advice would be, don't be challenged by letting go. I think that's really hard when you first step away from it. And then the other thing is find a way to find your passion in something new and different. So that might be my only advice I could offer them, but trust me, they're very capable to find their own way.
Well, I'm kind of curious, ladies, as Julie's saying, it might take a minute to kind of let go. Has it taken a minute to let go, or do you feel like you're ready to just not think about college athletics or sports at all for a little while?
I have a group of friends that I travel with, and we'll go to the islands. And one of the things they always talk about is how fast it takes us to get to island time. And one of them, it takes her the whole week, and one of them takes her 4 days. It takes me 10 minutes. I always win the prize for getting on island time immediately. And I've been thinking about that this last couple of weeks. I thought, I got to retirement time real fast, almost immediately. So, how about you?
Yeah, I don't think I'm there yet. Mainly because I've just been, it's been 3 months. I've been incredibly busy. I was in Europe in July. I was in Africa most of August. And so I've just been busy with kind of life stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm anticipating there'll be a moment, or there'll be a lull at some point where it'll kind of hit me. But it's been fantastic, and it's been great. I said today in front of the entire group, I said I get to do damn well whatever I want to, wherever I want to, and I choose to be here, and that's it's been awesome.
That is awesome, and that really speaks to your role here in this industry and mentorship and as you said earlier, sisterhood. Well, again, we're just having fun with this retirement and reflection conversation. If the three of you could start a brand new career today, what would it be?
Is there anything other than athletics?
That's what you're going to find out.
I did not know that. Oh, Sandy, what would you do?
Well, I'm going to jump on Sandy's answer because I love to travel. And, you were in Africa, you were in Europe. And if I was going to start a new career, it would probably be something in the travel industry, like a tour guide somewhere. And
a travel writer.
I like that idea. Mm-hmm. I like that idea. So I think that, but it's still organizing people and guiding people and leading people. But you just made me think of that, Sandy, as you talked about your trips.
Did you go on a safari?
I did. It was amazing on all kinds of levels.
That would be fun.
I highly recommend it.
I
will go again. We were in Kenya and Tanzania.
Wow.
It was fabulous.
So what are you going to do next?
Well, that wasn't the question. That was not the question.
If you're going to start a company or start a new business.
If you were going to have another career, what would it be?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I'm on island time.
Yeah, you could be a cocktail waitress at some island somewhere.
It's so funny because somebody threw out to me that I should go try to be a flight attendant because they need flight attendants so badly, and they said you could try it. And I'm like, no, thank you. I can tell you what I don't want to do, and that's one of them. But
I'm gonna be really boring. I would do college athletics all over again. It was so good to me. I have such great memories and moments, and it's all about the people. Whether it's 40 years of student athletes or 40 years of coaches or administrators at the institutions I was blessed to represent, or its colleagues at other institutions. There's nothing like it. Now, I say that, I never knew anything else. I never did anything else. So, maybe I don't have the right perspective. I don't know.
No, but when I said, is there anything other than athletics, I was joking sort of, but I was really being honest too, because I can't think of anything else I would have rather done with my time or passion.
Okay, well, Julie gave us a real answer. You two are still too tied in. They're still too tied
well,
in.
See, like I said, I'm
is
at
that
a couple
the little
more
bit
years.
of time separation?
Maybe.
I agree, though. Being in college athletics, there's nothing that can really match it. If I had to choose, that's what I would choose. But I have no regrets about the career. And I coached for 20 plus years before I moved into athletic administration. So I've had a real spectrum of college athletics, and I've enjoyed every minute.
Well, you've all coached and were in athletics before going into administration. And I would argue that we're not really seeing that, coach to administrator to AD chair path as often anymore. Okay. What skills from your coaching lens and career really translated to your time in the chair?
I think so much of the advantage is the empathy, is the perspective. Now, it's changing. Being a coach is so much different than when I was an assistant coach at UMass Amherst and Northwestern in the early 80s. It's very different, but I do think that's kind of the number one thing. There is at least Sandy's been there, Julie's been there, and I think that's really helpful with all kinds of stakeholders. But I also think it's understanding today's student athlete. I think it's helping to do that. And then there's a grit that and a resilience that you need as a coach. It's kind of like being a salesperson where you get a lot of no's. Well, coaches get a lot of no's as recruiters, and depending on how talented they are, there might be more losses than wins, or certainly you're going, no matter how good you are, you're going to experience a loss, and you need to understand and figure out how to deal with that.
I'm sort of with her. The first thing that came to my mind was, I think what was transferable was knowing what student athletes want and how much they're willing to work to get to that. And I think that transferred that, that understanding. But I agree with you. What stood out with what you said was the grit that it takes. And I think that's what makes a good administrator out of a coach.
Also comes with being a military brat, but
And I think sometimes as a coach, you develop that sense when one of your student athletes needs a pat on the back, or sometimes a little push to motivate them. And I think that's really critically important as an administrator too. That emotional intelligence that goes along with coaching, I think, is important. That's a piece of it is empathy, but there's also a piece a little bit beyond that. The coaches know if you were a coach, you've walked a mile in their shoes, so to speak. But you also know when they need something a little bit more than just, I've been there. So I think that's been beneficial.
What was the hardest, most challenging part of being AD? And I don't mean the big things that happen, the crisis management, those kind of things. I mean the everyday grind of being an AD. What was kind of the thing that you're like, I have to do this report or whatever, that really challenged you?
I think for me it was. It goes back to the student athlete. The hard thing was when you saw a student athlete that wasn't reaching their potential, and you wanted so badly to help them figure out that they needed to work a little harder in the classroom, work a little harder with following the coach's, rules or whatever. And that was always my most frustrating and disappointing thing when I saw an athlete that didn't make it for some reason or another.
Yeah.
And but everything else, it was just, you just get through it. You just do it.
One of the frustrating things to me was interruptions. And, when someone walks into your office, they need to see you. And you might be in the middle of a report that you talked about, or you might just be hanging up the phone from a difficult phone call with a parent or a student athlete or another coach or something. But to that person walking in your office, that's the most important thing for them that particular moment. And they need your undivided attention. So it's dealing with that interruption, pausing what you're doing, finding a solution if that's what the person needs, or just listening empathetically, and then reconnecting again to what you were doing, and still being able to complete the task that you had started.
For me, it was constantly having to be on. And I've thought a lot about this. It wasn't, modeling behavior for our teams or our administrative teams, or that was fun. I mean, you did have to realize that everyone was watching literally everything. So I didn't have an issue with the modeling the behavior piece, but it was, I need to run to the grocery store and I'm in sweats and a baseball cap or something. So that's a real life situation, right there. And I'm like, oh, I look like crap or, whatever, but off I go. Especially living in a smaller community, right? But it was also going to the grocery store and having somebody walk up to you about a ticket problem or a game that you just lost, or why did this or this happen? And most of the time that's okay. You can but it's after doing it for 20 years, 25 years, it can wear on you.
I spoke with Beth Gatz the other day, who was the AD at Ball State, now deputy AD at Iowa, and she told me off camera, they told me when I came to Iowa, I can't wear anything red at any point ever, not in my yard, not in the yoga studio, anything, no red. And we kind of joked that when you get a new job, a new AD chair, you need a clothing stipend so that you can go get a whole new wardrobe to match your new colors or whatever. That's kind of silly, but it goes with what you're saying about being on. Did you,
yeah, there are many versions of that. I remember when I first got to Cal, I'd made enough moves that you basically leave everything behind. Maybe you bring a couple of things that are favorites or whatever, and you're going to go to the next stop and you're going to get all their gear. Well, I was working out in my house. I was on the treadmill or the whatever, and I had a Notre Dame hoodie on. That I knew I could only wear in my house, right? And the doorbell rang or whatever, and I went. It was somebody that was like, "What are you doing in that?" And I'm like, "Oh, geez, here you go." So anyway.
The very first day of my retirement, I wore blue because we were red and black, and I've only worn red and black for 6 years, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I can wear blue." And I had so much fun putting on blue.
It's real though.
But it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
And not to get too into this, but for men, they can slap on a new polo or a change of tie. But
yeah, I was thinking that when Sandy was talking, would be talking about this if we were males? I don't know, but
but also we take pride in our fashion.
Yeah,
don't we?
Actually, we would. I remember running into a colleague at the dry cleaner, a male, who had his alma mater. He worked at Penn State, but he had his alma mater, which I won't mention, was from another Big Ten, and I lit him up.
There you go. So yes, we are all part of this ecosystem.
Yeah. Isn't it funny though how your T-shirt drawer, all those shirts get lower and lower and lower, right?
Yes. Well, you all were the first throughout your career, the first female AD, the first this, the first that. When was the last time you did something for the very first time?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a really good question.
And you can't say first safari because, that's kind of
It's
easy.
exactly what I was thinking.
That's a hard question with the pandemic because you haven't been able to do a whole lot for the first time. I retired in January of 20 and everything shut down by February. So, it's been 3 years and there really hasn't been a lot I've done that's new or different because of the pandemic. I have to think about that.
No new tattoos, skydiving, anything like that.
We were talking about tattoos earlier today. No, but that challenges me that I need to find a first.
Yeah.
I like that question.
Well, I will say this. During the pandemic, I've always loved to cook, and I have never had time. I've got a smoker. Now, of course, I've said, oh yeah, I started smoking during the pandemic, and everybody's like, whoa, no, smoking meats. So yeah, I did that for the very first time. Does that qualify?
Yes, it does qualify, and you probably take that to some tailgates. You'll be really popular.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That will be awesome. Well, I will ask an industry question a bit. Is there a specific topic that you're going to be keeping your eye on? Just maybe when you see that in the news, you're going to click on that article. Or is there anything like that? Is there anything that you're paying attention to?
Yeah, I'm still paying attention to it all, right? When you've lived it for so many years, you just want to stay involved. And so many of my friends are still in the industry, so I want to know what's going on with their careers and their livelihoods in some cases. And to me, it's just important to be in the know, to continue to be in the know.
I think we've got so many really important governance decisions that then some of the more mechanical issues will fall out of, and so I'm with Julie. I'm watching it all. I've got the time to watch it all, and very very interested in it, and certainly want to stay kind of involved in some peripheral way, and as we've all made a difference through our actual working professional careers, we'll all continue to do that in a variety of different ways.
I'm with them. There's so much going on. You have to pay attention to it all. I think the thing that I'll be most passionate about is following, I call them my coaches, the coaches that I've hired, and watching them and what happens with their career is the thing that I'll be most passionate about following.
Well, obviously, we have a very rapid pace of change right now in the industry. What advice do you have for those newer senior leaders, those newer, younger ADs who might be a little bit overwhelmed by just everything that's going on?
I sit there and I think we've gone through so many changes during the course of our career that I remember the 90s when we thought, oh, this is going to ruin college athletics. I mean, how many times have we had issues where we thought this is going to ruin college athletics? And really it always kept, college athletics just kept thriving and surviving and figuring out how to handle the new issues. And I know that this has been probably unprecedented, that so many changes happen in a short period of time. But I have so much confidence in the people that are here and the bright, young, new administrators. And I know they're going to all figure it out, and as we did. And it's going to, they're going to get through these stages. And so I think that's my advice to them is just, keep having confidence in the industry, because I think the industry is not going to go away, and it'll find a way to transition and thrive. So that would be my advice.
It's funny you say that. I think we have so many examples of times that, I remember when we were trying to decide whether to allow student athletes at the Division I level to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was certainly one, this will be the end of us. This will be a disaster. It was not. Nobody cared. Now I think this is a whole different level of change. But I'm with Debbie. I think there's something so special about college athletics that it will figure its way through in iteration. There's so much passion around it. It means so much to colleges and universities that I do have a lot of confidence about it coming through on the other end. But my advice is keep the main thing the main thing. And there's so much we don't know. So much we got to try to figure out what's around the corner and position your institution to thrive in whatever that environment is. But I do think that while we're trying to figure that out, let's make sure we don't mess up the core, which is our students and their experience and their health and well-being. And I think if we focus on that, if we keep that the main thing, while all this else is going around, and obviously we've got to help manage it and try to figure it out and try to help guide it through the governance system, but we can't lose focus on the main thing, which is our students.
You talked during the introduction, Cindy, you talked about the value of something like this event. And my advice to the younger people just moving up through the ranks is to, ask for professional development money so you can come to events like this and you can talk to the industry experts who have lived through different changes, who are at the front end of the various committees that exist, where you can network with other people so that you're sharing those ideas and you're sharing the challenges and the issues and the problems and the solutions and the creative ideas behind all those things so you can be part of the conversation.
We talk so much about the importance of work-life balance, but to be honest, so many senior leaders admit, I don't really have balance in my life, and that's understandable. Again, we're busy and we are passionate about what we do. But I want to know, how did you carve out space for yourself, again, a little bit away from the desk, from the field? What did that look like for you?
I think when Sandy talked about being on her treadmill at home, you end up finding, I think we all probably have home exercise room.
That sometimes we use and sometimes we don't.
So you find a way to make it convenient for you to have your time, I think, is, when can I grab this moment and when can I grab this time? And then to me, it was trying to make it as easy as possible for me to grab those moments. So
I call it the balance of imbalance. And I think it's you can't balance it in every moment, but I think over a period of time, you do have to take time for yourself. You do have to pay attention to your family. You do have to pay attention to your own health. You do have to pay attention to your well-being. But it's not like it's always 50-50. It's there are times. The fall on a football campus is crazy, especially at a place like Penn State where you've got volleyball and 2 soccer programs and a field hockey program and cross country and football but at the same time you love it. You feed off of it, but then you've got to make sure that, because you transition right to that other crazy winter season, right? And so where are you going to create a break for yourself? Where are you going to take time to spend time with your family, to take care of yourself, whatever it is? So I think it's that ebb and flow of. It's never going to be 50-50. It's never going to be balanced. But in the main, where have you taken your time and where have you spent your time and created priorities in moments of time along the way? I
think of it as a scale. And I think when we say the word balance, to Sandy's point, an imbalance, when we think of balance, we think of a scale that's equally balanced like this. But one of the things that I've learned, if this is work and this is life, the fulcrum can move closer to one area or another, and you can still keep the scale balanced. So the way I like to think about it is, okay, most of the time, the fulcrum's going to have to be over here, my attention, my energy, my time has to be over here at work. But then there's going to be those times where I move the fulcrum over to life, and you have to decide when that is. It can't be a football weekend in the fall, that kind of thing. But when it's the time for the life, then you move the fulcrum over there, and you have to find a way to have that focus so that somebody on your staff or whatever is handling these things, and you could still keep that scale balanced. And that's the way I always pictured it for myself, and that helped me decide, okay, this is my family time. Now this is my work time, and keep it separated a little bit.
Well, that takes building a lot of trust in your staff and having a good number two or a good assistant so that you can step away and not be panicking the entire time.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I thought I had good work-life balance when I was working. And then when you retire and you're no longer working, you look back and you go, oh my God, I was awful, right? I don't know if you got to that point yet, but it's like, because all of a sudden your life, that scale you're talking about, your life is like, wow, I've got my life back. And I don't think I've figured out how to still balance it yet, like how to balance my life in general right now. But yeah, I thought I was good, and then I realized I was not very good at all.
I knew I was not very good when I was in it.
Yeah.
That I was,
I did too.
I was
I did
terrible
too.
at the life thing.
I did too. I'd like to think I was okay,
Yeah.
but really when you step away, like, oh no, I don't think I did that really as well
That's
as I
hit
could.
me. That's hit me hard. Is that I didn't do as good a job as
Yeah,
I
but you
thought I
think you're
did.
doing
I
a
thought
good
I was
job.
handling it all right.
Yeah, and it works for you in both work and life. But then all of a sudden, when you back away, you realize how out of sync it really gets.
And it's hard. We love what we do. We love college athletics.
Yeah.
So a football weekend is not a burden. It's joy. But at the same time, yes, you take a step back and you're like, oh, my dog, my kids, my lawn did not get any attention during that football weekend.
Yeah, and now that I'm retired, I can do it when I want to. Not like, okay, I've got 10 minutes to get this done on a Friday afternoon before I go back for contest. And then I usually procrastinate. I go, well, I can do it Monday too. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, in the spirit of this convention and this fellowship here, we're on the anniversary of Title IX. What does the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades of Title IX look like in this industry?
Good question.
Well, I've always, and Sandy's had to hear this before, but I've always likened what our journey to a 440, because a 440 is such a grueling race, and passing the baton. So I've actually thought recently, okay, what's the next? But the first race was let us play. The first leg was let us play, and and then let us coach, and then let us lead. So I'm like, okay, so now where's that fourth baton going to go? What's that last leg? And I think, I think the last leg is, for me, what I think about often is just treat us, don't even be thinking, female. I think it's going to be equal pay, which, Sandy helped tremendously in that area. But, I was talking to some of the women here, the younger women here today, and they don't even have to think about some of the things that we had to think about. So I think that last leg is that things aren't such a big deal anymore, because we're, nobody's being felt to be separated or having to prove themselves or work harder than the men type, some of the things that we were taught. So I think going forward, it's just there's not much differential between men and women in our world. So
yeah, I think it's still about a considerable push. Let's face it, Title IX went into place in 1972, and it's been, maybe this is not the right way to describe it, but it's been on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again, depending on who's in power from a political standpoint. I think there's still so much that's misunderstood about what Title IX is or isn't. I've been known to say to groups of young male students, I promise you, first of all, nowhere in the words of Title IX does it say anything about women. It says the underrepresented sex. And I say to my great nephews, who are between the ages of 7 and 13, one day, Title IX will protect your opportunity. Maybe not in my lifetime, but one day, Title IX will protect the opportunities for males because they will be the underrepresented sex. Obviously, we're not there. But, I think, and I hate to say this because we should be doing these things because they're the right things to do, and equitable opportunities for men and women, which is really what Title IX is about. Title IX is not about equitable opportunities for women, it's about men and women. But we need better enforcement. We need institutions to understand how serious this is, and that they really need to comply. And I think we are at the time in our society where our young women are not going to stand for anything less, and nor should they. And I think we will find ourselves 50 years from now in an incredibly different position.
The last session they talked about standing on others' shoulders, and I think the young women in there, and in general, especially in college athletics, understand there are many people who came before them who had to fight to get some of the things they have. And I think that what Sandy just said, I think we're at the intersection where the young women are now going to say, no, that's not, you can't do that. That's not right. There needs to be a change here. And that the banner of Title IX, which I think gives it a great deal more strength, will be carried by our student athletes as opposed to the 3 women coaches in a department, right? Or the lone senior woman administrator. And I think that's where it's going to get some power, and I think that's where the future will lie.
Well, I wanted to wrap up with a question about your legacy and how you want to be known, but I know you're all too humble and you're not going to really give me an answer. So just a fun last rapid fire question. Is there a book or a Netflix series or a hobby that you're looking forward to picking up in retirement, or that you want to continue in your retirement?
I can't wait for the next season of The Crown.
Oh, yes, I am so excited. I'm so
with
excited
ya.
for that.
That and Ted Lasso.
There are. I said this a little while ago. Actually, I have always been a voracious reader, and probably over the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years, it's been hard for me to read the newspaper, right?
Right.
And I've already started to kind of get back into books, and I literally have several stacks that I'm just plowing through, and it's been awesome.
That sounds like heaven.
Yeah, really, and there's so much good stuff out, and I'm reading mainly nonfiction. There's so much good stuff out there. But yeah, The Crown and Ted Lasso.
I'm with you. Maybe we can get together and have a glass of wine or
That sounds
margarita.
Great. We should have had
and
a
watch
margarita
that.
with this
Watch
conversation.
that together.
Yeah.
Why are we just coming up with this now?
It's not 5 o'clock yet, but it doesn't matter. We're
Somewhere.
tired.
Yeah,
We're tired.
somewhere.
There you go.
As my father would say, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
There you go. There you go. Anything for you?
Well, it's interesting because I have found a lot of time to read, and what I'm finding is I gravitate toward an author, and then I want to read every book that author wrote, as opposed to switching books. And I go back and forth between historical fiction and nonfiction and so on, and that's been a really great opportunity. And I will probably continue to do that at a rapid pace.
With a margarita in hand.
Yeah.
Well,
pages turn better with a margarita.
they do. Well, this has been fantastic. It's such a treat to talk with all of you. You guys are icons, and I will say that. You have a tremendous legacy, so much power in this room. Thank you so much for joining us, and of course for being here at Women Leaders.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.